What's up, everybody? What's going on with the Outliers? It is the 4th of September, and we are off to a little bit of a banger of a week, ain't we? So, the really not a set agenda for the live stream today. We can kind of bounce around, go wherever we want. But I figured we would spend a little time talking about the markets broadly, diving into really any specifics that you all would like to hit. But man, I am a little interested to see where we go from here because, in my opinion, we're at a bit of a market inflection point. But I got to let the Discord know that we're going on live right now. So let me make a quick post. Hopping on. Boom. And yeah, let me grab the chat. I'd love to say hello to whoever we got hanging out to kick us off in the beginning, and then we'll dive in. It looks like we got Zachariah. What up, Zachariah? And we got Brenda. Welcome to the Outliers supporter. Thank you, Brenda, for the support. We got Mac Chicken Generational Capital. David is golfing his brains out. A lot of times when people said like I'm blank my brains out, it doesn't really apply. But I actually think for golf, that one's pretty applicable because I feel like that is a very, very mental sport. Obviously, some physicality, but it seems very, very mental. So, which is probably why I would be a terrible golfer because I do not have the mentality for it. We got Jado. Why not is hopping in from vacation overseas. Why not? Where are you at? And we got Mike hanging out. Beautiful. We got the gang in town. All right. So let's start then. If there's anything, any specific tickers, any questions that you all have that you want to hit, throw it in the chat literally at any point. It's an open forum. But in the meantime, we will start with just some general market news. We'll catch up with what's going on today, at least according to the larger news sources on the market. And then we'll go from there. Paula, Why Not's in Seoul? Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. Paula says they say that golf reveals players' personalities. I bet. Well, it's like if you do anything tedious and frustrating, you're going to get to learn somebody. That's actually one of the really cool things about having a lot of military friends is that most of us spend a lot of our lives in like really uncomfortable scenarios where you learn to get very comfortable being uncomfortable, and you're not a shitty person when you're like tired, hungry. I find that's one of the biggest differentiators between my military friends and civilian friends. Whereas like those human factors really, really impact my civilian friends. Were like, if they're hungry, they literally will be like grumpy and grouchy and shit. And most of my military friends are just like, whatever, dog, like fucking another day. So I find that part always a little bit interesting. Joe Tato says, my brother was telling me once how golf was one, if not the most athletic sports to play. He was not joking. Honestly, Joe Tato, whatever your brother is smoking, I would love, like I literally would love to maybe try it out so I can see the world through a completely different lens that apparently he does. I think that it's completely fine to argue that golf is an athletic sport for sure, but it's really not athletic, right? It's definitely a sport. It takes a lot of coordination, exactly as David's talking about. Timing, absolutely. It takes accuracy, takes control over the body through the motion. Like, I get it, but that's like, I don't know. Well, I mean, let's check it out. I'm gonna say define athleticism. And let's see what we're talking about. The physical qualities that are characteristic of athletes, such as strength, fitness, and agility. Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't classify a lot of golfers as athletes then based on this. I just don't see it. Zachariah says, I don't know, bro. I work in aerospace and them Navy boys are emo above their proficiency. Yeah. Again, definitely something like golf, it requires coordination and stuff. I would obviously call it a sport and it's athletic, no doubt. But yeah, I struggle with like actually considering that this is like we would call it in it like the most athletic thing. I don't know about that. Why Not says can't get enough calories sometimes due to intermittent fasting. Honestly, that's horse shit. Yes, you can. I intermittent fast. I literally only eat dinner, and you absolutely can get you can get tons of calories. So I call horse shit on that. You just have to eat more. Takes a little bit of a different constitution, but yeah, I like right now, in order to, because I pretty much hang around like 220 pounds generally, and I'm 72 inches, so I'm 6 foot, and I've essentially been able to like maintain that ever since I switched to intermittent fasting like 4 years ago. I'm not gaining a bunch of muscle or fat. I'm not losing a bunch either, but like I'm still able to maintain what I need calorically, which is pretty high. I still have a really fast metabolism. So normally I'm trying to take in like 42 to 4,500 calories in a day, and I get the overwhelming majority from dinner. I do have like a protein shake after I lift, typically in the morning sometimes. And for that, I'll use like whole milk with the protein, use like 2 scoops and stuff like that. So I can get a decent amount of calories from that. So yeah, it's doable. David says, I'm short for my weight. I absolutely love that framing. I absolutely love that. Mac Chicken says, mind taking a peek at Siri coming up on the 9-9 merger. Curious why Buffett is building such a big position. Yeah, let's take a look. Let's take a look. So I actually want to grab Siri. Here we go. So I saw this come out earlier. Let me throw this in our little window here. And yeah, so the split off is approved, which is good. And then, all right, so let's see. This is from today, hot off the press. And it says Liberty Media, SiriusXM, final exchange ratio for split off transactions. One of the things to highlight is that we keep calling it a merger. And as I was learning more about the transaction, I was kind of taking it at face value when I was first hearing. But I do think it's important to differentiate is that, well, again, we can call it a split off merger, whatever you want. It's like, it's not that big of a deal, but there is a little bit of a difference just to be aware of when we look at something like this, because the way that this is working is that Liberty Media has a bunch of different companies. Actually, there's a really great video on this. I'm not going to play it so that I don't get copyright struck, but I'll show it to you so that you can watch it literally whenever you want, and you should watch it. It's a great video. Where's it at? This one. So you should absolutely go check out this video. And I think this video does a really good job outlining what this whole thing looks like. And not only that, but the dude has, his hair is just purely on fleek, right? So we can give a shout out to homie's hair. I don't really care for the background too much because, as you could tell, based on my background, one, I prefer it to be grossly more cluttered and less clean. And then the other thing is I don't see like a single weapon anywhere, which that also frustrates me a little bit. So there's that. But anyways, let's go to, there's a part of this that I think is really, really useful. This right here. So essentially the video talks about the different holdings that Liberty Media has. So it has SiriusXM, F1, Live Nation. And then within all of these, there's separate classes for each of these. So essentially what Liberty Media is doing is trying to reconcile these different classes and essentially have a SiriusXM stock. Now, the opportunity here for our boy Buffett, where is it at? Here, is if we take a look at the market cap for the company, according to these different holdings, there's a disparity, right? So according to Liberty Media's accounting of ABC, right, the different class shares, it should be 10.74 billion. SiriusXM as a standalone company is showing it at 13.4 billion. So this variance in value is essentially what you can trade. And that's essentially what Buffett, and obviously when we talk about Buffett, we always, hopefully most of us understand that when we're discussing Buffett, I mean, he's obviously part of it, but he has an entire team that essentially runs Berkshire. But Buffett, it's just like when we talk about Nancy Pelosi slinging trades. Really, it's not Nancy Pelosi. It's her husband. But it's still way more fun to think about Nancy Pelosi just out there wheeling and dealing. So anyways, that's the idea. I didn't get through all of this. This is just talking about obviously the share that they're trying to, or the position that they're trying to build and stuff like that. But yeah, I didn't get through the whole video. I just remember seeing this part. And I think for a lot of people, seeing it mapped out this way is really useful to see, because it's not so much a merger. It's already a thing. Liberty already owns Sirius. It's already there. It's just a function of reorganizing the shares and then reconciling this value gap that appears here. So highly, highly recommend checking out this video. Super, super solid video. I'll throw a link in here so that you can check it out on your own time. But I think it's a good watch for this. Again, I didn't get through the whole thing, but so going all the way back, it looks like I got to get back up to where we were. On the 9-9 merger, curious why Buffett is building such a large position. Okay, yeah. So that's essentially why he's playing this relative value that's starting to emerge from the opportunity. So let's see. It shows our satisfied waived applicable at on the 9th. Liberty Media will redeem each outstanding share of Series A, Series B, and Series C in exchange for 0.8375 of the common stock of new Sirius, right? So they're just essentially combining them. But there's a way to play the relative value between these. So that's essentially why you're seeing the play being established by Buffett, is because he sees that their team sees that there's a value disparity here, and they're looking to trade on it, which is, I think, really smart. So Liberty Media and SiriusXM expect new Sirius will approximately have 339 million shares of new Sirius immediately following the consummation, of the split off and merger, which former holders of XM stock are expected to own 81% of new Sirius, and former XM minority shareholders expected to own the remaining 19%. So yeah, interesting play. And we can take a look now at what this looks like. Let's go to Siri. And then what's and then LSXMA. So then if we take a look at Buffett's position, Berkshire Hathaway, Siri Holdings. Oh, this is kind of cool. I don't really know this website, but this is pretty neat. So they've been holding Siri for a while. Yeah, so he grew his share in Q2 by 96 million, 262%. So he expanded meaningfully into this. And then let's look at Liberty Media. Here it is. So he has Series C here, which he expanded. So he's long this, he's long this. Not signing up for free. I did that one time for you guys, and I picked the wrong thing. And it was the most frustrating thing on earth, because it didn't actually show us what we needed to see anyways. It was the ultimate. It was the ultimate get fucked provided by the market. So yeah, I mean, to me, that's what looks like is happening here. It looks like an interesting play by him. It looks like he also is just expecting a continued increase in value because he's going long both of the products, which is a little bit different than normally what you would do for some sort of pairs style trade. So yeah, I think that's mostly what we're seeing here. Jado says the GME Siri tin is enough to keep me interested. Now, the part I would be really interested to learn about that, though, to be completely honest, is I think it would be like if Siri will continue to be a focus point for us after this merger, if that changes everything, right? Because when this is done, I wonder how mobile people are going to expect Siri to be just in terms of how active the stock is going to be, which I'm not sure. Zachariah says, sorry, I'm hyped about it. And I think the thesis goes like this. Sat Tech is expanding exponentially and they will hop on Starlink at a free tier. Everyone basically has the equipment in the car. They'll kill FM and it's already a monopoly. Yeah. I think that that's fair. I think the problem, though, when it comes to the idea of it being a monopoly is that most people, when they're traveling already, like the overwhelming majority of people don't listen to radio anymore and they're using their phones. So while I agree with you in terms of the, killing FM or FM slowing, like continuing to die, kind of like cable TV, I can see that thesis, but I actually don't see the monopoly. Because I would argue that the overwhelming majority of drivers are just streaming things that they like, whether it's through Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or whatever it is, or YouTube, or even Netflix. Like there's a ton of competition out there. Now, to your point, one of the things Zachariah says, but they own Pandora, right? So that's another piece to their puzzle. I actually don't know Pandora user base. That's a fantastic question, though. Like Pandora versus Spotify. Pandora users versus Spotify. Yeah, so gradual decline in Pandora's user base is anticipated to continue over the coming years, with the company losing 2 to 3 million active listeners per year. That's kind of what I expected, to be honest, just because I don't know many people that actively use Pandora, not just that my individual bubble dictates the entire market. That's obviously not the case, but it is generally indicative if it's like a household name versus not. And I do know, I don't use Spotify really, but I do know tons of people who do. So I think them owning Pandora obviously doesn't hurt them, but I don't think that it's necessarily going to drive a tremendous amount of value for them, because it looks like their lunch is getting eaten in droves by Spotify. Mac Chicken says, I still use radio all day in the work truck. It has Sirius, but no Bluetooth or aux, but no Siri subscription, a free turkey. Yeah. And and that's why that's the fascinating part about markets, is that when we look at individual paths, you can find instances like Mac Chicken would love this kind of solution because of their specific scenario. The problem is when we're looking at the efficacy and long-term profitability of companies is penetration. Penetration into the market is one of the primary drivers of long-term value. It's actually why my YouTube channel is so interesting to me, because I know that the information I share typically is pretty good because it's based on a lot of homework that I've done over a long time. But even though the way I set up my channel is the way it is, the penetration of the channel still isn't that great. Like we just crossed 25,000 subs, which I'm completely stoked on. But if there's another approach that I could take that would appeal to a much broader audience, right? So if I started doing like real clickbait style thumbnails, and if I started doing these really obnoxious video titles that are based on fear, those would do much better. Those would yield much higher penetration than what I have now. Obviously, I'm not going to do that because I don't care to, but I also acknowledge the trade-off in terms of the impact to my ability to penetrate the YouTube viewership audience to try to spread my brand and talk about the things that I think are important. So yeah, I think that it's it's really interesting to hear edge cases and individual scenarios, exactly like Mac Chicken. And I'm sure, again, Mac Chicken's not alone. There's tons of motherfuckers, I'm sure, that are working in cranes and shit as well, or like whatever else they're doing. Like there's tons of people, right, that would still do it. And that's also the cool thing, right? This idea of penetration is interesting because even though, again, going back to my example for my brand and our community, is although I do not have this maximum penetration and I'm getting the widest audience, there's still 25,000 subscribers to the channel, which is pretty cool, right? So I've not maximized the penetration capability of the brand, but there's still enough people finding their way in that it's meaningful. So in this scenario, looking at something like this, even if Pandora doesn't hold on, or even if Siri doesn't become, again, overtake Spotify or something else, that doesn't mean that there's not enough people that are interested in it, that even though they continue to struggle against Spotify, that they couldn't survive for some time. Now, the question becomes, how long can they survive? And how do other entities start to pivot? Because, for example, I think the exact idea for somebody like Mac Chicken is that they're not the only person that's doing that. There's a niche there that's available. And somebody like Siri is not the only entity that has access to satellite radio. So yeah, that's kind of the really interesting thing about markets is users, viewership, the way companies evolve. So I completely can see, Zachariah, your thesis, but I personally don't know if I would be quite as bullish as you seem to be. That's not to say you shouldn't be. I'm just offering some other ideas to bake into your thesis. If it reinforces your thesis, great. I love that. But I'm just offering other perspectives to help shape and inform your thesis writ large. Roaring Titty. Everybody, Roaring Titty is in the house. We all know that Roaring Titty's got to get a shout out whenever she's here because of the name Roaring Titty. It's fantastic. Reese says, sat through an ad for Robinhood to be here. Oh, Reese. Oh, Reese. So, Reese, first and foremost, I want to send my deepest condolences that they put you through that. Second thing is I want to talk about the disrespect of Robinhood to try that kind of bullshit on my channel, which I take every moment to talk shit about them as possible. So, fuck Robinhood. Then I also, though, kind of like that because anybody that's joining the stream is going to hear me talk shit about Robinhood. And Robinhood paid for that ad for me to talk shit about them. So it makes me kind of like that arrangement. I don't love necessarily that you had to like sit through and watch it, but I love the fact that they had to pay for that ad. And then I'm just trouncing on the platform. I don't know. I feel like it's a little bit of a mixed thing in my mind. I think that it's a bit of a win net, although I still hate Robinhood. Now, I also have to be honest. I am at slight odds, even with Thinkorswim, because I was at the gym earlier and I was trying to adjust a position that I had on, and all of the deltas were blank on the mobile app. All of them blank, gone. So I'm like sitting there guessing what I think the deltas are. Now, I have to give credit to the chat support. They were fast, man. I hit them up. I let them know like, yo, I'm trying to adjust this short strangle like right now. I can't see the deltas. Can you send me a screenshot of the platform because it was fine on the web so that I can modify my trade? And I literally did that with them like 3 more times and they were fast. So annoying that it wasn't there, but not the end of the world because I'm not trading exceedingly short term. So yeah. Anyways, for those that don't know, I don't know if that impacted other people, but that is a thing right now. So just to be aware of it. And they apparently know it's a bug. They know that it's there. So yeah, I guess they're working on it, but yeah. Roaring Titty says it must be a solar flare or something because Fidelity has been super glitchy. I don't know shit about Fidelity. I like going there once in a while to adjust a position that I have, and then that's it. The other thing I wanted to talk to you guys about really quick, part of what I try to talk about on the channel are different things that I kind of have learned as I've gone through my approach, like trying to build wealth. And there's different components or different things that I know about and then don't know about and learn about over time. So this is a little bit of a random aside, but something that, again, if you don't have wealth, you probably might not have experienced this. And because I didn't for a long time, and then I learned about it relatively recently. But so this is a transfer that I did earlier today. And this was for a real estate deal that I was talking to you all about. And one of the things with wire transfers, in case you don't know, typically they're free. But when you're wiring money, wire fraud is so rampant. It's all over the place. So I'm working with a couple partners, and so that we have like an executive assistant that's helping pool funds and all that kind of stuff. So anyways, when I'm before I send a wire with any amount of money that I care about, the first thing I do is call the receiving party and just verify the contents. That's it. Because there are predatory emailers out there that essentially can detect certain emails that have wire instructions. And depending on how good they are, they can literally switch the attachment or add it as another attachment so that it's kind of confusing and there's a chance you pick the wrong one. So a completely random aside, probably not super applicable to a lot of people, but it's a random thing that I learned as I've gone through this process broadly. And it's something that I didn't really think much about before, and how good the fraud is. So anyways, if you're wiring money, any amount of money that you actually care about, huge recommendation, call the receiving party directly and verify the details of the wire. Because the other tricky part about a wire, for those that don't know, is once it's gone, it's a round down range. It is gone. There's no take backsies. There's no, oops, I didn't want to send that. It's gone. It does not matter. As soon as the instructions clear whatever entity you're sending from. So again, bit of a random aside, but temporally topical because of today. So that is that. Reese says, sounds like I should check out this fraud business. I mean, to be honest, it's probably not a bad business. The other one, I don't know if you guys have ever seen, I'll pull up another YouTube channel that I think is, whoa, Nick, that just blew my mind. Nick says my high school lost 30 million that way. Yo, that's crazy. I honestly have not heard of that amount. Nick, you got to give us some details on that. That's fucking crazy. $30 million. That's nuts. Especially for a school, because like that's a lot of money for anybody, but for big companies, that's kind of like whatever. Joey says Nick is now, yeah, actually, Joey, great point. Hey, Nick, out of curiosity, what's the net worth looking like these days? Does it happen to fall around 30 mil by chance? Just wondering. Because I think Joey is reading between the lines here pretty successfully, if I had to guess. I think Joey's on it. Zachariah says, down here in Texas, you spend that on a new football field. That sounds right. Well, Texas, like football for Texans is like that. I mean, I think it's even more than religion, is it not? I feel like that's got to be, the thing for Texans. That's crazy. I can't believe your school lost $30 million that way. That's fucking nuts. Doosan says, can you please comment why, in your opinion, Amazon, PDD, and SE are falling in the last week while BABA is climbing, and what you see coming up for these tickers? Yeah, that's a great question. So Amazon, I think tech writ large is falling right now. So I don't really think it's relegated to just Amazon, but to your point, there are companies with it, like the majority of tech is not doing great right now. So if we go to the NASDAQ to look at inside tech, I can show you tech companies that are still doing okay. So Netflix is up a little bit. Meta is up a little bit. Tesla is up. What's actually Tesla doing on like a 6 month? It's still down. AMD, what are they doing? Down. What's BABA doing? Up, down, up. So up, A, B, D, E. Oh, oops, dyslexia. A, D, B, E. So Adobe is up. So it's not really just Baba that's up in this instance. What you're seeing is pocketed strength within tech. But the majority of tech right now is not having a great time. So I think what you're seeing is companies within the sector that are displaying strength, and then companies that are moving in line with the broader sector, in this case, not displaying strength, which again is kind of fairly common, to be honest with you. And you guys are going to have to excuse me for a second because I forgot to grab my acetaminophen, and we need a drug dosage. So I will be right back. I guess in the meantime, though, so that you're not just looking at nothing, we can throw that news up. You can look at that for a second. I'll be right back. Right. Well, if any of you are shareholders in acetaminophen, if not, you should consider it, because I actually think I might be personally driving the entire market cap of now acetaminophen, not ibuprofen, because I have a prescription non-steroid anti-inflammatory that I'm taking. So now the off-brand drug is acetaminophen. Reese says, Eric, the type to call pink eye conjunctivitis. It's kind of funny. Pink eye, I don't think I would, but I do have a little bit of an ism where I don't like calling things by the brand. So if I want a tissue, I'll say I want a tissue. I don't want a Kleenex. I want a tissue. I don't want whatever, like the standard hand sanitizer. I don't know what they call it, Purell. Like I don't use Purell when I use it. I use hand sanitizer. So yeah, that Reese, that hits pretty damn close to home. If I'm being honest with you, it's a fantastic observation and quite accurate, actually. Lance says 2,000 mgs of Motrin, couple canteens of water, you'll be fine. Yeah, just got to change my socks. Actually, I've had it wrong this whole time. I literally have had this wrong the whole time. That's nuts. Joey says, Eric, do you Google things? I do. I Google most things because I am a fucking idiot and I don't know a lot. So I spend a lot of time Googling things. Jonathan says, what about your sparkling water? Well, I refer to them as they are. So this one's a Spindrift, right? And then this one, I always give you guys the specific brands because the specific brands matter. This one's Waterloo Cherry Limeade. So right now we're working with 2 mango oranges, and then our cherry limeade is backup. Joey says that is a brand. Oh, I see. Yeah, but if I'm using Google to Google things. But I do agree with you. If I was searching, so like I wouldn't refer to looking at something on ChatGPT as Googling it. But if I'm Googling, like I literally am using Google. So yeah. And then if that's actually a great point. So like if I'm on my phone and you know how like on your iPhone, how you can, you know, just like pull down and then the search bar pops up. I don't call that Googling. I call that search. Like I'm going to search for whatever. Interesting. That's interesting. I don't know why. I don't know why I'm very much the way I am. A lot of fucking, I don't know. Jaws says, I know you don't say cotton swab. No, I would call those Q-tips, but again, the brand I have is Q-tips. Yeah, I think the only thing I would call it is a Q-tip though. So even if it was off-brand, I would still call it a Q-tip. That's you hit a perfect one. And then I also think another one, as I think about it, is like Tupperware. I call a lot of stuff Tupperware. Velcro is another really good one. Roaring Titty. Yeah, I would definitely call it Velcro. Huh. Yeah, so essentially there's no rhyme or reason. Some things my brain is okay. This is exactly what a double standard is. Zachariah says, think the point is when the brand becomes... Scott says Kleenex. No, I don't call it a Kleenex, man. Those are tissues. Yeah, I resist that one. Velcro is a good one. Duct tape? Isn't duct tape what that's called? Now I'm confused. Hold on. Duct tape. Yeah, it's duct tape. That's normal. Duct tape. No, I think you might be thinking about duck. Duct tape? Because there's 3M duct tape, there's Maxwell duct tape, Gorilla tape, Stick Tech duct tape. It was duct tape, but now the main brand is duct tape. Oh, interesting. So duct tape itself was a brand. No, it goes duck. Scotch? Duct tape. The first material called duct tape, long strips, plain adhesive of duck cloth. Yo, I love, this is the shit that I love. I know this isn't exactly market related, but it's still market related tangentially, which is hilarious for me to look at because you get to learn about all this fucking bullshit. Tape Pioneer. Now that's what I'm talking about. If there's any way to go down in history, it's as a tape pioneer. That's what I want to be known for, is my tape. 3M invented masking tape, Scotch tape. So then, US-based insulated power cables, wrapping of duct tape. The ultimate wide-scale adoption of duct tape, today generally referred to as duct tape, came from Vesta Stout. It was for ammo. Love that. Absolutely love that for us. That's good. So yeah, this is sick. I like this. Good learning here. This is also absolutely crazy. What a fun fact that I wouldn't have expected. Wheel fender extension to keep lunar dust down using duct tape. Oh yeah, you can see it. Yo, how sick is that? Haters will say that we've never been on the moon now. This is nuts. If we've never been on the moon, why would this dude be wearing this crazy ass getup? What I want to know. I also want to know how moon dust goes back down. Like how long it takes. Because moon dust has got to be really, really fine. And I imagine in generally low gravity environment. John says moon still has gravity. Yeah, I'm aware. Come on, dog. Obviously the fucking car is sitting on the moon. But what I'm curious about is like, what's the coefficient for something that it is too light to be interacted with heavily by the moon's gravity? 1/6 lower? That's a good guess. That's a really good guess, I think. I don't know. That'll be something we'll have to get the Mythbusters onto. You all know I'm down to go down a rabbit hole, but I'll call that one there because otherwise I can keep going for an undefined amount of time. I spend so much of my time just searching random shit like that. It's kind of insane. All right, so let's get back over this, though. I want to run through just some of the news from today. I haven't gone through this yet. So I want to see what essentially the market is talking about. So this says stocks settle mix, Fed beige book. Oh, I didn't. Yikes. I didn't read the beige book. We're off it today, ain't we? Factory orders I saw, job openings I saw came in super light. So I saw that. The mortgage rate is fine, 643, no change. Yeah, so most of this I saw. I did not see the beige book. Let's check that out. Joe Tato says, well, like sand from the Sahara fertilizes the Amazon. Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. That's why the sky looks red and the sea often sand in the atmosphere. That's exactly what I'm talking about. Because I know that if particles get to a low enough coefficient compared to the gravity that they're working with, that they don't necessarily fly off into nothing. The gravity essentially will still eventually pull it down. But I imagine like as somebody steps, that creates a pretty big pressure wave that would launch those particles some sort of unknown distance. And I don't know how far. Because one of the things I distinctly remember, I think I have an old picture I can find pretty quick, but we were in Australia doing a training exercise, and I had never seen dust that was anything like this before in my life. It was absolutely insane. And it coated absolutely everything. And you couldn't breathe through it. It was absolutely crazy. I want to see if I can find one of these pictures. Yeah, that's the dust. So this is like a mellow road, but like this moon dust, we call it, essentially skyrockets up like that. And yeah, like, here you go. That's an old picture of, that was like us just driving. We weren't doing anything. That's literally just driving. And take a look at my kit. Like I am completely fucked. I have a dirt mustache. It like cakes to you. Yeah, it's nuts. So anyways, the dust here is like this again. I wasn't even doing anything. We were literally just driving. And this is what it was like. It's crazy. So anyways, that goes all the way back to the dust hypothesis. Trying to see if there's any other funny pictures you might want to see. I have a picture of making my dudes fight in the dust. That was fun. I have a picture of a rugby game we played there. That was also pretty fun. Nothing else in here that you're probably interested in. That dust, though. That dust was next level. All right, let's check out this. Check out this beige book. Okay, they do go with beige. I will give them credit. G30, thank you, G33. I needed somebody in here that wants to think that the moon landing is fake. Now, G33, the next question I have to ask obviously is the Earth round or flat? Because that'll help me a lot understand how far into the ether we go, how far down the rabbit hole. M54 says, Raw, back to you, my boy. First, mango orange is down. Square. Okay. That's even more special. Probably the first of its kind that I've heard. You know what? G33. I think you deserve +1 fake internet point for ingenuity. So I got to find my fake internet point thing. There you go. +1, fake internet point. Ingenuity. I've never heard somebody refer to the Earth as square. That one's pretty easy. Colonel says ASTS up by as much as 22%, ended at 12. Yeah, I have a trade on in there right now. We were talking about that, yesterday in the pro live session. But yeah, right now I'm running actually spreads. I have some vertical spreads in there, which is rare for me. I don't trade them a lot, but they're actually positively expectant vertical spreads, which is nuts. Let's poke through this really quick. Let's look at the national summary. Economic activity grew slightly in 3 districts. And then the districts that reported flat or declining rose from 5 to 9. This starts to make more sense. This starts to make a lot more sense. Employment levels steady overall. Isolated reports firms filled only necessary positions, reduced hours and shifts, lowered overall employment. That is another question for you all. Talk to me about the job market as you see it in your career field. This is one of the cool things about having a bunch of different people in here that do different things. So are you guys seeing a bunch of job openings? Are you guys seeing no job openings? Are you seeing people getting fired? Are you seeing no change, about the same as what you've been? Because I'm really curious, again, from an anecdotal standpoint, what you're seeing. Fan of Airplanes says job market is shit right now. Is that Fan of Airplanes? Are you looking for a job and struggling to find one? Or talk to me more about that, like why you think it's shit. Zacharias says aerospace is effed up and is always effed up. That's interesting. Like, what do you mean? Can you also go into that? Because I have a couple of friends that are pilots that I actually don't know about that. And then the other thing is I have a bunch of friends out here in San Diego that work for places like General Atomics and stuff like that, and Raytheon. So it doesn't actually seem that bad. Kevin says 3 layoffs in 24. Kevin, what's that as a percentage for where you work? Because obviously 3 can be huge if it's a small team of 9, or it can be minimal if it's a team of hundreds. Jonathan says lots of poaching in the defense industry. Yeah, that's super common. One of my mentors when I was transitioning from the Marine Corps worked at Northrop Grumman. He was actually trying to get me to work there, and he talked about that. So that seems normal. Elong Songs is super late, but here now. Liz, great to see you. We really have not even gotten much into the markets yet. We were talking about moon dust for a while. We looked at some old pictures of Eric in Australian moon dust. So yeah, we're just at the beginning still, kind of. Kevin says in tech, 6 to 8% of total workforce. Okay, yeah, so that's not insignificant. That's not insignificant at all. Fan of Airplane says, I have a job casually looking tech sales. Okay, so tech sales is right. And that makes sense that tech sales would be slowing, right? Like if you look across the entire tech sector right now, it's slowing. So that's a really great example from Fan of Airplanes where his anecdotal experience lines up with what we're actually seeing in the market. Roaring Titty says, I haven't worked since 2013. Okay, so Roaring Titty is retired. You all need to figure out what she's doing and copy her. All I know is locally everything is growing and expanding, which to do with legalized pot. Okay, so in her economy, it's a little bit more like localized economy. It's a little stronger. Reese says unskilled labor isn't hard to find in the Midwest. Yeah, I find that most places. Unskilled labor you can always honestly find. It's when you start getting into skilled labor that tends to become more difficult. Zacharias says Bell and Lockheed through revolving layoffs. Interesting. That's really interesting. So wait, hold on. Let's take a look at LMT. They're killing it. So if they're laying people off, they don't fucking have to. That's interesting. Maybe they're just getting leaner. I have no idea why they would be laying people off. They beat earnings 685 against 644. Let's take a look at LMT earnings really quick. There we go. Earnings definitely beat. EPS looks like it's going to be good. Yeah, I mean, the company looks good. They're acquiring stuff. Aaron Orbital. They're growing the C-130s to New Zealand. Let's take a look at their Q2 results. Let's take a look here. Sales up 9%. Cash from operations, 1.9 bill. Numbers like this by themselves don't mean anything to me. Like, I need to know the comparisons. Let's just go through here then. I want to see cash flow is down year over year. Free cash flow is up massively. Sales per share is up. So that's like really, really positive. Like really positive. Operating profit margin is up over Q1. How's it compare to? And it's slightly down quarter over quarter by like a point. Profit margin is up quarter over quarter, down. That's interesting because this honestly seems like pretty well performing. So I would be surprised to see if they're firing people for anything other than, maybe optimizing the operation. But there's actually nothing in here that makes me think like they need to start firing people. They look pretty healthy. All right, so back over to the beige book. Employment levels steady. Isolated reports. Yep, we already talked about that. Reports of layoffs remain rare on balance. Because for me, what I've noticed on the reports of layoffs remaining rare is actually not at least some of my experience. Because quite a few of my friends work in smaller companies. I wouldn't necessarily call them startups. I would maybe more so refer to them as like late stage startups. And one of them works in a very well-developed company, but it's much smaller in terms of overall headcount. And they're going through and laying people off. But I think for one of them, it's an industry style trend. The other one is in like software engineering. So I don't know the total impact to software engineers. Somebody like Dadbot, if he's in here, he might be able to speak more intelligently to that than I am. But yeah, something's going on there. It seems like maybe the smaller, and this is also what you would expect, right? The smaller entities are struggling, and that's what happens in high inflationary periods. Wage growth modest, increases non-labor costs, selling prices moderate, consumer spending ticked down. Yep, so that makes sense. Manufacturing declined. Yeah, so this overall writ large looks like a slowing of the broader market. Like that's what this looks like. So the broader economy, I should say. So it doesn't really shock me to see this and to see like the broader market struggling a little bit here. And I think from a broader market perspective, again, as always, having some of the context, I don't know exactly how thinking or conjecture about moon dust really helps you out here. I haven't quite been able to make that connection for us, but understanding things like the beige book and what they're seeing being reported across a lot of the US at a national scale is actually, I think, really useful because it helps understand some of this as to what's going on, and the economy is slowing. Like we can very, very clearly see that happening. Now, from the bond market, I'm not sure if the bond market is responding aggressively. It's not. So bond market is showing a 45%. And this is, I mean, it's a moderate uptick over what it was yesterday and over a week ago, but it's still not the dominant probability, being 50 basis points versus 25. So it still seems like the bond market is slow rolling this a little bit more, even though we're up at 125 here. So Willie, what up, Willie? Willie says, doesn't Buffett own a crazy amount of T-notes? Probably. But I mean, somebody like Buffett, again, if you listen to one of his most recent press conferences or like his shareholders meeting, he talks about having so much cash and literally not knowing what to do with it. And one of the jokes he made is like, he's not sure anybody would know what to do with the amount of cash that they have. So yeah, it wouldn't surprise me at all if they have a really healthy exposure to some sort of fixed income products, because what else do you do with the amount of money that they have? They still have their overall philosophy and methodology towards what they want to buy and how, and they actually become really, really restricted in what they can get into at size that makes sense for them. So that's one of the things that I think retail traders sometimes do take for granted, is the idea that there are not many, there are some advantages to being small in the markets. Like, none of us will ever have to deal with that problem. I put problem in air quotes because it definitely is a high class problem and it's, nothing to cry about. But from an operational standpoint, it is kind of tricky to try to figure out how to navigate that. So yeah, I actually kind of get that. This is the other thing that I wanted to talk about with us. We can do this whenever. I don't want to jump into this prematurely. We can save this for a little bit later, but I do want to work through some of this with you all, because I think it's a really, really good exercise. We didn't get a chance to dive too far into it previously, but I definitely would love to take a peek through here with you. The idea is to try and spend some time building a closer relationship with how we think about money. And yeah, that's kind of the long and short of it. I'm not sure how many people go through that process with themselves, but I definitely think it's worthwhile. So I want to, like I said, I want to spend a couple minutes. It doesn't have to be long, but I want to spend a few minutes going through this with us as a group. So in the meantime, though, we can take a closer look at some more market stuff. I do want to poke through and see what we think about the broader market opportunities. I talked a little bit about this during the update video from today, but let me see. Roaring Titty says, "Oh, I don't know. How about philanthropy?" People like that give tons of money away. Like Warren Buffett gives lots and lots of money away. So do people like Bill Gates. They literally give hundreds of millions of dollars away. And even Buffett has talked about how he's going to give like some of his money to his kids, but he's donating all the rest of it. So yeah, those people with money are typically quite philanthropic. I actually find it really interesting, though, how critical people are without money of how giving they think people with money should be. And that it just confounds me a little bit, because I think that it's okay to analyze that stuff, but it's their money, right? Like they're going to do whatever they think they want to do with their money and how they think it's right. Because I've seen people that get critical of where people donate their money or the amounts that they donate of their money. So yeah, I think somebody like Buffett, I actually don't think that really applies to at all, because he's going to give literally hundreds of millions of dollars away, more than I don't know. I actually don't know what the most money ever donated was. That's a great question. Most money ever donated. That's hilarious. Yeah, see, that's what I'm talking about. So back to your point, Roaring Titty, which I know that you didn't mean anything bad by it, just kind of highlighting it. The dude is giving away $55 billion. Yeah, so he crushes Carnegie. Elon Musk has given away 7.6 billion. Like, that's the thing, is like a lot of these people with a lot of money, people want to like shit on them some way. Roy Titty says, well, you're saying he didn't know where to put all his money. Yeah, that's the thing, right? Is from I know, again, you make it in partially as a joke, but when you're a fund with the kind of money that what they have, it's difficult to find things to actually meaningfully scale a position into, which is why they sit so cash heavy so regularly. And it's also why they definitely have a really notable amount of different fixed income securities, because it's like, yeah, that was the joke he had. He's like, I don't think anybody knows how to manage a fund with this money. He's like, we're figuring it out too. But yeah, they give tons away. Zachariah says Carnegie model shows that the last 30 of your life should be charity. Damn. Well, that hits kind of home, because I got to be honest, with this whole herniated disc, I'm thinking fucking clock's ticking for you, boy. So I thought I was still in the building phase, but I might be in the giveaway money phase. So I might have to start pivoting a little bit, I suppose. Last 30 of your life? Yeah, I'm probably there, dog. Shit, I'm behind the clock here then. Casual says, GME looking okay. I covered that a little bit in the video earlier. We can take a closer look if we want in a little bit. But yeah, it's just kind of trending sideways, couple down days, nothing crazy. Willie says, Carnegie was exceptionally wealthy, doesn't apply to everyone. Yeah. Mashton says, I think you got like 40 left. I'm 33. 40, I think, would be like US average-ish. I'm fortunate that I have, I think, like pretty good genes for longevity. Like all my grandparents lived to 85 plus. But I just imagine I'm going to fuck it up somehow. The running joke that I have is that I'm going to die before my brother. And it's because my brother... we couldn't be more different in terms of like how we try to treat ourselves physically. It's hilarious because he eats terribly. He has a bunch of junk food. He sits all day because he's a cop. He like, it's nuts. He doesn't sleep well. And meanwhile, I'm sitting here fucking with like hydrogen water. I have this entire supplement stack. I'm drinking all this shit. Like, because I actually kind of find it fun, to be honest. It is just entertaining to me from an optimization standpoint. But the running joke is, while I'm messing with all this stuff, I'm going to die light years before my brother, and he's going to sit there and go get a gas station seafood salad and somehow just outlive me, even though he's already 4 years older. It's going to be complete bullshit. And I think my game plan is, whenever that happens, I am going to haunt that motherfucker, just so that he knows that I'm still hating on him from beyond the grave. I'll just have to work out a deal with whatever entity I go stand in front of. If there is such an entity, I'll just let him know, like, yeah, I get it. Eternal damnation is on the docket for me. Check, roger that. But can you do me a solid here and just let me go torment my brother for the rest of his life, so that, you know, and then I'll come in full force. I'll do what you need me to do in here, whether, I don't know, the eternal burning thing sounds kind of lame, but, you know, so be it, I suppose. Maybe I can work out a drug deal with, again, the entity that's going to condemn me to eternal damnation. Jaweb says, some lady who lived to 108 ate bacon every day. Yeah, there's stuff like that. There's a centennial that smokes cigars and drinks beer. It's hilarious. But those are always the, like, obviously the edge cases. Those people have very, very unique genes. Mac Chicken says, to be fair, if your immune system can handle gas station seafood salad. Yeah, dude. I have no idea how he has like indigestion and shit. He says he gets heartburn. Something like, I don't know, man. It doesn't make any sense. It makes absolutely no sense. I always say that he has, he has like caveman strength. I don't know what else it is, like how his body is as resilient as it is. It's complete bullshit. So anyways, let's do some quick scanning, shall we? Unless there's any interesting news that you all came across. I haven't seen much. So when I was poking through here, like, I don't really care about Nordstrom. I don't understand this very demure thing. I've seen that, like, I think it was only on like Instagram or something. It was like super, super random. I had no idea what it was. And let me see. Yeah, there's nothing interesting in here to me. And then the other news source that I like, we can take a look at this. And then we can take a look at this. Yeah, labor market. See. Yeah, I don't see anything that's jumping out at me here. Nope. Nothing interesting. James says, Eric, you can count all the YouTube videos as charity for all of us. It's actually kind of funny, like, not even kidding. I really do view, even for the Outlier Pro members, although like part of that is paid, but like the amount of time and effort that goes into managing all of this stuff, I have a thing that manages my time so that I know what I'm doing and where it's being allocated. And I literally do bucket a lot of this as philanthropy, because the process of like sharing the amount of knowledge that I've built, and it's not that I know everything, I get to learn too. To be very clear, this isn't like, holier than thou. I'm, helping it. Like it's definitely mutually beneficial to that degree. But there are a lot of components of just sharing information and that I've learned over decade plus doing this stuff. And it's a really, really specific skill set. And to be honest, when I think about a lot of the stuff that I share, like I really don't gain anything by it. Like even this process right here, like I'm about to start going through and scanning the market with you all. The only thing that does is have people more look at prospective trades that I might take, and eventually it starts flooding them out. It's actually why, if I'm keeping it a buck, there are things that I don't talk about very purposefully, because I do not want, again, even though it's not like my audience is super large, but I still have different things that I do that I am not looking to have any sort of awareness put on it until I guess I'm ready to navigate away from it. So a lot of the stuff that I share, it's broad enough that I don't think sharing it with a crowd our size is really going to impact the opportunity. There are other things that don't fall into that bucket, and those are some things that I just will not talk about. But that's actually one of the things that last year I talked about, because for those that don't know, I had hands down my absolute best year trading last year. It was my first time hitting triple digit returns, which was really, really cool. I'm going to grab this one. So this talks a little bit about essentially like what that year was. But last year was the first time I returned a little over 118% on the account, which was nuts. But that came from a series of opportunities that I still haven't talked about. And I don't intend to talk about it probably for like another fucking decade, if I'm being completely honest. But I do want to talk about it at some point, because I think it would be really, really cool to highlight like some of what it was and how it went, but I'm not willing to flood that trade out at all, or that approach. So a lot of the stuff that I share, it's a little bit more meta level, but the whole approach that I try to take is like help people make their own decisions. So that's kind of the point of this, right? Like going through this scanning process. So I'm going to start with you guys. What do we want to look for right now? I can tell you what I'm trying to look for my portfolio. I can pull up kind of what I need, or if you have a specific need that you want to run through, let me know, because I am down to do either. If you want me to run through how I'm looking. Willie says idea that massive Nvidia drop. That's not a bad idea. I think from a trading perspective, it's too early to trade this to the upside because it still looks like it has more downside to me. But I think if it does start basing, then yeah, like if it starts pivoting here or basing out and then it starts looking a little bit healthier to the upside, I don't dislike that at all. But the broader tech sector just doesn't look great right now to me. I'm not like bearish tech. I just think it's struggling. Vladimir off Putin says TQQQ is scary and sexy at the same time. I just got out of TQQQ. What was it yesterday? I told you guys. I think it was yesterday that I got out finally. I've been trying to get out of that position for a while, but finally the calls were a little bit far enough, and funny enough, I phased out of the calls. So I cheated a little bit, and I actually, for a little bit of yesterday, I had naked short calls in TQQQs, which is kind of dangerous, but I was babysitting the position, so I didn't care. So what I ended up doing was taking in the shares, and then after I grabbed the shares in, I essentially just rode down, and I just kept monitoring the short calls so that I can scrape whatever profit I could out of those. And yeah, I mean, I wanted to get out of this position for a little while because I think, I don't want to say that the party's fully over in TQQQs, but when you're trading leveraged products like this, it really is not a great idea to just hold forever. It just does not work really well. So it can be done, especially in something like tech. But the problem with that is we never know when the market is going to change and have a different regime, right? So tech has been on an absolute tear for like a decade and a half, 20 years, essentially from 2000, tech has been running. But that doesn't mean that tech is always going to be the dominant force into perpetuity. There's going to be different periods where, although tech might be a primary driver of value, which from a macro perspective, I fully believe that to be the case. But even though with that as the case, there will be individual years or multi-year periods where there's other things that are really catching the wind at their back and starting to run. So yeah, I think here I don't hate tech at all. And you can even argue that it's starting to do a massive cup with handle, although technically speaking, one, you shouldn't do technical analysis in TQQQs, you should do it in QQQ itself. And then two, more importantly, like this is kind of like a cup with handle. This is a little bit of a big drop though, or a cup with handle, a little too big of a decline. Normally it should be a little bit less than that. But yeah, so anyways, TQQQs is a really interesting play. I like it, I trade it, but it's not really like my go-to forever. And that's actually why I'm essentially gonna, when I'm ready to go back into tech, I'm just going to use futures for the exposure. That's my game plan. So, yeah. Because at least for me, I think just as a general position, it makes a little bit more sense for like a general carry style trade. So, yeah. Zacharias says, I was keeping my ear to the ground for an AMD update. Yeah, we could take a look at AMD. I haven't like really seen a whole lot happen in an AMD, to be honest, that looks super appealing to me, but I am absolutely down to take a look. I just got to order my dinner, which tonight we are going to run, we're going to run Italian food. I think a little bit of Italian food is, I think, good for the soul. I really like chicken marsala. So that's what we're going to hit. Willie says Mexican food. I was really close to doing Mexican food. The other thing that really like I had a craving for not too long ago was boneless wings. Every once in a while, I really, really like boneless wings. They don't have great boneless wings out here, but yeah, every once in a while, I feel like that is, that's the move. Paulo says CRWD recovered partially from its tumble. What do you think it'll do next? Yeah, let's take a look at that. CRWD has been interesting. I've been in and out of there a few times. I still don't like actually love it that much. Zachariah says carbs are inflammatory. I don't know, dog. That might be the case, but I don't really subscribe that way personally. It's like I think carbs are completely fine. I've eaten carbs my whole life. Somehow I typically am okay. So yeah, the idea of carbs being inflammatory could be a thing, but actually, I mean, let's take a look, because I don't really know. What the fuck? I was trying to find a study on it, but what the fuck is this? James says, then how are blueberries super anti-inflammatory? That's another great question. What is this? Do you guys know what this is? Yeah, that's what I thought. Fish. But it's like two different fish. Pike perch? Pike is a fish. Perch is a fish. So I guess it's a cross species? I ain't never heard of no pike perch. I've gone fishing for both pike and perch, but I've never gone fishing for pike perch. I legit did not know that that was a thing. Nuts. Oh shit. Fascinating. Anyways, back from that, back to here. Let's do some scans. So you guys didn't tell me what we're looking for, if we need long deltas, short deltas, if we need volatility. So I'm going to tell you what I'm looking for. The core allocation of the portfolio looks good right now. I do want to add tech and small caps, but it's just not time yet. And I'm using the micros because I'm still in the process of moving a bunch of capital out of my account for these different real estate deals. So I'm trying to stay generally liquid. So these essentially are just smaller products that will fit with my new small portfolio coming up over the next couple weeks. It's going to be a bit of an adjustment. This I still don't like to the upside, although I'm monitoring it. So I have a couple levels in here that are interesting to me. Like there, I start to like it above this. Like that. So anyways, the Russell is no good right now. Nothing to be done. NASDAQ, similar. So the first spot that starts to get, I really hate that it's doing that. That's terribly annoying. I think I'm going to kill the at the money put call ratio so that it ceases and desists. There we go. It was very annoying. So this above here, but like I was telling you all when I was first looking at this earlier today, man, was I eager. I was like scoping a position. I had it sized. I knew exactly what I wanted to do, but I didn't allow myself to pull the trigger because it needs to behave correctly. So this isn't it. So then that's from the core allocation. So there's really nothing to be done there. Now from a speculative allocation, I will drop an alert on NVIDIA. As you can see, I already have one spot that's interesting to me to start trading this to the upside. This would be the next kind of preemptive level. And then if it falls at a bed, and it runs down this way, I would also want to know, although I'm not looking to fade it. I'm just kind of looking to keep an eyeball on it. But I do like NVIDIA. I'll take a look at like some model trades. It would be shorter term. So maybe something like the 70 DTE. Grab something like these 100s, 67 deltas. That's okay. Pop over to the risk profile. And then it would be something like short. Maybe these. And then maybe these. I have to add them individually so that I can modulate them individually. So something like these would go out. And then like these would go out. And then this would be at least 5. The trade that I would put on would be a lot more than 5, but this would be the minimum that I would grab for the longs. And then I would do, what does it look like just here at the 108s? Yeah, I don't hate that. So you can get a quick win on the 108s. That would bring us at 126.89. Let's do a quick look. So we have 1465 times 500. So this would be a 73.25 outlay minimum. And then here you make 126 divided by 73.25. So that'd be a 1.7% return on the money in 16 days at a minimum here. And that's unwinding the whole thing at that point, which I wouldn't do. Yeah, I probably wouldn't run these at the monies as I'm looking at them. I would probably just go with these out of the monies and do like 3 of them. That would put us at 114.30 delta. Yeah, I like that better. And then if we get that move to 108, as expected, you make a little bit more money. Yeah, I like that better. So yeah, something like that is an idea. Ratio call diagonal, back to the well. Not what I'm doing now. Let's see if we can find some stuff that I like now. So right now, I want non-correlated returns. So that puts me in variance risk premium territory. ASTs already have a position. Sava. High implied volatility percentile. High IV as a raw figure. Really big monthly ranges, 53% with these moves, which is crazy. So sizing in here would be insanely important to get right. To not have potential issues with being missized on a big move. Probably go a little further out on these options. The 30s are about $1 wide. And these are 60 cents. So it's pretty illiquid, but not terrible. Like 30 delta there, 30 delta here. That gives us 453. And then let's add some slices. And downside 2150 to 4255. So 2150, 4255. First check is see what those look like on the chart. 2150. That looks okay. right below the midline here, and then 42.50, which also looks okay. So now we look at probabilities. And this is for 4-oct. Trade would likely be managed in half that time frame. So then it would be somewhere around the 20 sep. Probability of 21. 50 is 33%. Probability of 42, 55. 20%. So 30 and 20%. So now we grab that handy dandy. Oh, we could use the one that I built for us. I don't even have to use mine anymore. Check that out. I could use the one from our handy dandy workbook. Here, we did this. I don't remember when we did this, but we did this not too long ago. So none of these details matter. I don't care about any of that right now. I really only care about the stop. This doesn't matter. Full profit is going to be 453. And then I'm just going to use the inverse of a loss here for the probability of profit. So it's just going to be 1 minus this. And then the stop loss for something that like this that has 2 legs, you can't lose on both sides. So what I do is I use the most probable leg, which in this case it was the 2150. So the stop loss is 2150, and then the probability or the amount of a loss there is 220. So minus 220. And then the probability of that was 30, like 31%. That's like a really positively expectant VRP play. So I like that a lot. And that's the game. So I take a note here on Sava. Sava, have to be careful because I can tell that it's a health sciences kind of company. So with stuff like that, they are heavily news driven. You have to be super, super thoughtful about like this right here, right? So Monday, September 9th it has this presentation it's giving. I don't know exactly what kind of impact it would have on it, but I actually likely would try to get the trade down before that, realistically speaking. And then we can also take a quick look. I can kill this, come over to this. And then we can take a look at Sava. Yeah. Yeah, so we know it's presenting there. And then let's see if it has anything. Nope, that's good. Nothing there. Yeah. So there was one of very many. So the way that I run like these variance risk premium plays is like I essentially would just scan through this list and grab a bunch of them because you have to have a bunch of them on. It's more of a broad statistical play. All right, back to the chat. Enough of my shit. Talk to me about what you guys want to look at. Zacharias says, so when you're looking at the KPIs for small cap, how much are you reading into the story? I'd say something like APLD has bad numbers, but great potential. APLD has a story with NVIDIA and Bitcoin is a great question. So from a trading perspective, essentially none at all. Like I don't care remotely about the story. Now, from an investing perspective, it's completely different. If I'm an investor, I actually would care quite a lot. Now, a caveat to this is I try to develop a relationship with these different tickers that I kind of keep in the back of my brain. So for something like APLD, while from a trading perspective, this looks pretty ugly, at least for something to the upside, you could either trade it to the downside, which I actually don't hate it to the downside. that would be like a stop level here. Now, the question is, how much downside could you stand to get from this, which is TBD. But it's like running right into this volume node, and we know the low is 236. So this can be something where rather than trading it via like a ratio put diagonal to the downside, I would more so look at coming in and selling. But the variance risk premium on the short-term timeframes doesn't look good. So I would have to run it on the longer-term time frame. So probably like a 30-day fade, which I don't like that. That's too illiquid. Let's see how these are. These are terribly liquid. So this is a pass for me. There's nothing I would want to trade in here. Now, back to your question though, which is about like, how do you value the story? As a trader, I don't value the story. I don't care, because the time frame that I'm trading, the story won't matter. If I'm in a stock for a month, the story behind it essentially is already priced in as it sits until there's new information. So what I do in those instances is I just try to trade the movement. But if I like the story, in the back of my mind, it's something that I'll add to a watch list, and I'll come back and revisit, periodically, and be like, okay, well, I liked this thing before. How's it doing now? And that's the way that I think about it personally. It's a good question. Let me know, Zachariah, if that answers what you're thinking about there. And then for the rest of the gang, let me know if there's anything else that we want to hit. I'm in the process of working on a study that's analyzing the end of day moves in SPX. So that's actually going to be hopefully something I can review on the live stream tomorrow with the pro folks. But so far, just so that you all know, for like the 0 DTEs that I trade, there's been some like really, really interesting near-term behaviors that I was noticing. And specifically that the end of day moves tend to be a little bit more severe. So I'm trying to analyze that a little bit more to kind of bake into my strategy. So that's that. And then the last question I want to ask you before we wrap up for today is for the options trading for beginners live stream on Friday. Is there anything in particular that we want to hit? So right now I have it to be, I think I have it scheduled more as like a general case study kind of thing, but we can modify and we can focus on a specific topic if there's something you're interested in. And then the other thing I want to throw out there for anybody that's either in the chat now or is going to plan on joining Friday, I would love to get a couple of your trades to work through with you. So if you have a trade on that you're kind of like exploring, or you want to get some feedback on, or you just want to compare notes on how we might manage it differently, shoot me a note when I post on Friday with what your trade is. So I always make a post on Friday on the YouTube channel, essentially, saying that there's the live stream later in the day on Friday. So throw your trade in there with the way that you're thinking about it, and then we can analyze it together so that, one, I can give you some input on how I think about it. And then two, hopefully we can work through some of the way that you're thinking about the trades and hopefully make it a little bit of a better process. So Elong Songs is already signed up for a trade. So Elong Songs, you cannot betray my trust since you pinky promised me. It is now an expectation. And then Joe Tato says, side eye Reese. Yeah, Reese, he did share a trade. That did happen. And I would love to take a look at another Reese's trade, provided that Reese doesn't give me some bullshit information again and then have me running around like a fucking chicken with my head cut off looking for nothing. That would be great if that could be a thing when we look at the trade. So yeah, side eye for Reese is accurate. All right, everybody. Well, absolutely stoked hanging out with you all. Tomorrow is the pro live stream, and then Friday, Outlier trading for beginners live stream for everybody. And then On Saturday, we have the GME live stream, which I have to be honest, I'm really, really stoked about because I want to go actually to Roaring Kitty's old positions and actually look at the market and see what it looked like when he was placing the trades to help me better understand the way that he's thinking about things. So I'm stoked to check that out. Thanks for hanging out. Be an outlier. I'll see you all around.